So you feel comfortable with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like everybody else is pretty much on the same level in that class, in that 5:30.
So, but what if, well, let me let Sarah, how are you feeling?
I feel good on this
You feel-
side. Yeah,
okay.
everything. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Like I usually do one, newer thing, and then I just build around that. So sometimes
Yeah.
it may be like, but I think they appreciate that because if you get a whole class of like all new stuff, like they're looking
It's-
at
yeah, it's
what
too
the
much.
heck are you
Me this
doing?
morning, I had some new stuff and everybody was,
Yeah.
it was very challenging,
Yeah.
but like Parker, everybody was like, that was good, because I haven't ever done that before.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
And it's
like it was
always-
just
Something different.
something different.
Yeah, I think my only thing that I feel like my brain like doesn't like runs out of ideas is like arm stuff. So like
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
like I mean I feel like I'm just constantly trying to like and I mean I think some of that's just my own, like they probably don't need it to be like
Right.
unique or whatever, but I do find that sometimes with the arms like they like struggle more with some of the stuff, so it's like if it's got something else to it, it keeps them more excited to
Yeah.
do it, or you can make it shorter or this or so it's just trying to I mean I do come up with them, but I feel like that's my only thing that sometimes would be like have more ideas or different things like for more arm stuff.
When it comes to arms, I like to think about, am I gonna try to kill arms primarily today? So that would be like
Right.
upper dog, sweeping series, laying, swimmer, those sorts of things. Or I'm gonna try to hit arms in multiple different movements,
Right.
with leg or a lot of plank work,
Right.
shoulder taps, push-ups, things like that. So if you're doing a lot of the secondary stuff,
Mhm.
don't worry so much about
Yeah.
what the primary set is, because they don't care because their arms are so tired.
Right.
By the time you get to arms anyway, they're like, oh, I'm kind of happy that I didn't have to do too much more on the arms.
Yeah.
If you go back to, actually, we did it in our last training, and we had not done this for y'all's training. We organized all the arm series by exercises in, like, typed
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
Did we do that for you? Not you, you didn't have it, I know that.
I think we did. It was.
think y'all told us
we
to
were
do it.
getting there, but
Yeah,
we
we
didn't like. It was like not like I think we. Because I remember us going through and being like, these are all like kind
Yes.
of together. This is all single arm. This is
Yeah.
that. But I think we didn't get
Get to
fully-
it.
Yeah.
I'll send that out too.
It
'cause
wasn't
it's-
typed up. I guess you would say.
It's organized now and typed, so I'll send that out to everyone, so just be a good reminder of like,
Yeah.
different things you can do. I feel like we've made good progress with everyone getting really comfortable with teaching, and I see a lot of, not that I'm seeing classes on Instagram right now, I see lots of new movements
Yeah.
in classes and just like observing a lot of cool different stuff being done. Just remember when you're doing that stuff to evaluate the, effectiveness of it. Sometimes we can get on YouTube or Instagram and things look really cool, and then you do it with the machine and you're kind of like, even as the instructor, it can still look like it's really cool while people are doing it, and as you're doing it in the class, you're kind of like, what am I doing? What am I working? I can't figure this out. So always be sure that if you're going to teach something new, that you're not just doing one or two movements. Like do the whole progression of your series that you're going to try to throw at them, and understand a tall person, a short person, a weak person, a person who can't hold themselves up. Like, what are you going to do if that happens? Like, just have all those scenarios in your head so that you don't get caught in class being like, you just lay down and, and do whatever. Because I like the fun, different stuff. I want that to be happening. I just want us to be sure that we're covering all of our bases with all of our different types of clients. I had this idea, and Alexis actually, we've been talking about continuing education, but we've had some clients who apparently are not happy with me not being in the studio as much as I usually am. Not from a teaching perspective, just like, where's Taylor, what's going on, does she not care about her business, like what's happening? So I was like, why would they be saying that? Alexis and I were talking about it, and I'm like, well, maybe, we have some newer instructors who maybe I need to work with a little bit more. Maybe it's the classes, maybe it's not the classes. So it just spurred me to say, like, let's get on this continuing education and see if there's anything I need to address with y'all, which doesn't sound like there is. We're still gonna go over stuff. But if y'all do hear that being said by anybody, I don't mind if you guys share with them that, like, I'm Did she?
I was like, she's the only, I said, I hope you guys said, she's the only one else done,
Yeah,
and she
totally.
has to take a step back, but.
Totally
she'll be back
fine.
as soon as she can.
And I went back and forth with like sending out an email, is that a person you know? Okay.
I don't know.
I kind of went back and forth with, hey, how are you? It is,
I'm so sorry.
don't know where it is, hold on, let me look. Alright.
Oh my god, I don't know this.
I just seemed like she knew what she was doing, and I'm like,
Yes. My mom had a gift card ready, did you see it?
I did not.
Was it for SSA?
Yes.
She had told us this weekend because she thought somebody might have.
Oh, she put it in the bag, that's why she gave it pretty for you. There you go. So I don't mind if y'all share with them at all. I went back and forth with like, do I send out an email, do I not? I'm like, what do you send out an email and we get 900 text messages?
Yeah.
And then have to explain this and then people think I'm crazy. And it's just not, I've decided it's not what I wanna do. But I am happy to just like validate with clients that I still
I don't know, I
care.
mean, my teach in the evening, so they're kind of used,
They're like
they know
used to
your
not seeing
schedule,
me.
so they don't really
And that's
say
because-
anything.
I don't get it.
Probably because you're early morning.
And, yeah, so I
So like that
feel like,
midday crew
yeah,
is.
it's probably more of like, you know, Alexis and Ashley, and like when they're here, those people, you know,
Yeah.
but I haven't.
It's more out of concern for you.
It is.
Yes,
and not
it is.
like-
Yeah, I've never had a negative.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe on Saturday I had a random someone ask, I don't know, or maybe it was a class they thought you were. I think Thursday they thought you taught that class, and I was like, no, you don't teach that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. I mean, you haven't since I've been here. So
Yeah.
that was So, but I haven't had any negative. But I will. I will text you.
Yeah. And just like, I don't want it to be this like big mystery of like, Taylor's not here, we're not gonna say why, you know what I mean? I just wanna like share that with everyone that I'm fine if y'all just say she's working through some health stuff, that's totally fine. And like if it's a, clients can text me too, I just feel like person who said it, said she had no idea I had been sick, I'm like, what do you did? So, anyway. It just, it was so hurtful to me, like,
Yes.
that clients would think that I just like pieced out and decided not to come around anymore. Anyway, so we can be upfront about that with anybody. Okay, so the first part of this is something Rachel had put together from workshop she did, and then I added some stuff at the end that I've been wanting a chance to go over with everybody. So if I kind of go quickly through some of the stuff in the beginning, it's because I really want to get to the stuff at the end. Okay? Okay, so modifications, alignment, and adjustments. This is the biggest thing that I'm seeing. Sarah, I'm talking loud, I'm sorry.
No, your loudness is light. It's not sound.
Okay,
That's
it's
the thing,
light.
It's light. So I won't be able to look at you
Yeah,
really.
just close your eyes.
But I'm listening. It's really not. So I mean, you can be as loud as possible.
Okay.
It's just it's the sun and then it's just it's all like.
I know, I was like, we can turn my lights off.
I mean, it really. I don't know. It's fine. I'm fine.
Okay, so this is the biggest thing that I'm seeing with specifically privates that we're needing to have, instructors work with, who I feel equipped to work with certain types of people. This would be people who are like brand new, never done Pilates before, older, injured, pregnant, right? All of these things. And thank God we had a little bit of a pullback on privates, but I feel like they're kind of starting to pick back up again. I have a private who you're gonna be working with for nutrition, but she just beat cancer and like she's super weak and she, is literally starting from below ground zero. So these sorts of things, not just in a one-on-one setting, but we're having these people starting to come into classes too. So it's like, we're about to roll out this series of beginner workshops, and my hope is that, we have a huge push to get new people through the door. Baton Rouge right now is seeing 50 new clients a month in the studio. So like the diversity of what they're needing to know how to train is just growing and expanding. Ours should have been there by it's not, so we're working on getting more short caught up. So I just need to be sure from an instructor standpoint, we're all really clear on how to handle these sorts of people in a class setting, because it can be pretty difficult when you have someone like this who really shouldn't be in the class but is.
So are the beginner classes, like, are you seeing if it is popular to like put them on the schedule?
Well, we're gonna do it as like a series to try to get new people through the door to see if it works. Cause like right now, inviting someone for a free class is not really working. And giving them a week free kind of works, not great. And we're trying to figure out if it's intimidation. Are they scared to come into a class? Like what is the barrier that we need to break down? So these beginner classes are really just for new clients to come in and teach a very basic class of every different method to introduce them to what it is. And then from there, I think we can get a feel based on those clients' feedback of like, yeah, I would like this to continue, or I think I want to do privates, or actually I'm okay in a class, you know? So whomever's teaching those, please give that feedback, because it's gonna be really, really, really important for us to figure out, you know, what to do going forward. Okay, so remember Pilates is all about body alignment. Proper alignment is the absolute key, especially on these machines, to preventing injury and to doing the exercises the way they should be done and the most effective way. So when you're looking at a person's body, Alexa, stand up for me. You need to remember that the foundation is always from the ground up. So if you're looking at somebody's alignment, you're not gonna start visually at their head and their shoulders, right? You wanna start from where their feet are, where their knees are, where their hips are, and then go up to fix their upper body, okay? So if we're on a machine or we're standing on a machine in a lunge, you're not looking at what this is doing, right? We've got to start from the hips down, make sure that's correct. But then don't forget about their upper half as well. Even though they're not working it in a lunge, I'm gonna have you do whatever it is. I'm gonna have you do it. Sorry, I really wasn't gonna make you do anything.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Where's the camera? Here you go, right here. I think this one you're right.
Oh, we're thinking Ashley. So when we're in a lunge and we're starting from the bottom up, right? Go up your lunge. So I see a lot of times that she's actually like a little too far here and she's a little too down here. So lift up through here, about there. And then remember, neutral spine going about here. Remember if I had a pole, I would want the pole to touch your tailbone and your upper back. So come too far this way. I see a lot of this,
That's
which
what we
is
struggle a lot with.
that now it's gonna pull in her hip flexor.
And I feel like it's their low back.
And low back. No, go back, I'm sorry, you can release it. You can shake it.
Shake it out.
Big thing about it too.
And dropping the heel back to stair, you know,
Yes.
you're flinging it over and over, like, weight forward, you're gonna feel more secure that way.
And they won't do it.
And they still won't.
So our job is, or if we're overcorrecting and we can't get them in that position, how do we pull them back? How do we modify enough that we can get them in that position? Because I'm seeing a lot of like corrections and then we're just kind of like, oh, okay, I can't get you where you need to be. You know, we move on. So another thing that we want to remember, once we get the foundation correct, so from the feet up, a lot of times, go back on your lunge. A lot of times we're forgetting about the core. So like, they're not at all engaging through their belly. So forward, a little, yeah. And then engage through your core, pull up, more. I just ate. She said, suck it in. It's engaged, it's engaged. Okay, so do y'all see, and now here, squeeze your butt too much. So this is good, but a lot of times just filling you up all the way around.
No, I don't care what
So this is great, right? But we have to remember that like if we're holding on for dear life here, well the front leg is your primary worker. Like, so this back leg is there, but we're not like holding on for dear life for that glute. It's this glute, hamstring, and quad. And I hear a lot that we cue, I've thought a lot about this, that we cue drive through the heel, which kind of doesn't make us think about the quad and the calf, but it is also doing work for balance and stability. So I think if we cue pressing through the heel but stabilizing through the ball of the foot and the toes, it's going to help get a more complete engagement.
Ashley says that a lot.
Yeah, you're very good at doing that from, I think from your dance.
Yeah.
Because
Your toes are still
your
supporting
toes are still,
you.
because I've seen people, when we say, you gotta lift and wiggle your toes, and they're
And
lunging
like that,
like
yes.
this.
I try not to say lift and
Yeah.
wiggle really ever because of that reason.
Yeah, so,
Most of the time, though,
But sometimes
especially
it just
forwards,
comes out.
they're just.
excuse that I can't find matching socks.
Most of the time, though, it is because, especially in a lunge out, they are going
Yes,
knee over toes,
Yeah.
so then they are like more so into their foot.
yes.
And
So
that's-
you do wanna cue the heel, because that is a
Right.
good cue, but still
Yeah.
balancing through the entire.
My biggest is just, they all drop that back heel. Because
So,
they're scared
when
to
you
transfer
cue-
the weight.
Yes.
When you're cueing, before you start a
Right.
lunge ever,
Right.
like say you're in a private,
Right.
have them hold the carriage in, don't move at all, and roll up the
Right.
back heel.
Right. And that's what I did, yeah.
Here, like nothing, they need to be able to be comfortable here and feel the shift of the weight before they ever start a lunge.
And then you sit, you're like, no, I'm like, they're like, heel, and I'm like, they start moving, I'm like, don't move.
Yes.
Don't move.
So this is
Right.
where we're starting with the foundation. Where is your weight? What is down? What is up? Now, from here, check in with the knees, right? Her knees look good. They're both nice and straight. Here's where they'll start to bend the back knee a little bit, which sometimes it is just a flexibility issue, but if they can straighten and not go down as far,
Right.
that's better, right? So limiting range of motion and come back up.
And stability.
Stability.
But could you just flip them?
Yes, you could just, yeah, this is not a bad example, but
But like
it's
this
to
would
say-
be more advanced for someone who's
Correct.
learning how to lunge, obviously.
and that needs to happen more. There's
Yeah.
so many people who are unstable going back who just need to go forward.
Yeah.
And it's okay, that's not a huge
I mean, I had to
deal.
do it today because I'm terrible at warrior lunges.
Yeah, I mean,
my left hip still is so messed up from the baby that
Yeah.
I have her left side. I'm like, I gotta turn around.
I gotta go
Gotta
front.
turn around.
And just don't forget, I don't think anyone, quite frankly, is thinking about their forward lunge. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
But we've got to remind them that this machine is asking for your entire body to be engaged, specifically your core for stability. So if they're in a lunge, you know, and they're all like, Raquel used to kill me with her lunges. She's like here, you know. You've seen her do it.
Right.
Like, you know, if you're here, you've got to pull up through your core and think about it because your core is just not going to engage on its own. So let's remember to be cueing our core in our exercises that really aren't even involving your core at all.
Can you quickly go over like side lunge?
Yes.
Like, because
Yes.
that is another one that, I mean, I feel like I know things to say, but obviously this is good to get another
Yeah,
more
I'm gonna go
ideas because
Single leg squat and side
Yes,
lunge.
right.
Okay, so single leg squat,
Right.
and I hear people cueing this wrong, listen in the camera, because it's some of y'all. This is side lunge.
No.
Single leg squat,
Right.
this is side lunge, okay? So don't, it's,
Because you're lunging, you know.
correct, so your working leg, think of, is where your cue comes from. It's just confusing when one instructor calls it one thing and then another one calls it something else.
Yes.
Okay, so in your single leg squat, come down. So this hip should try to stay as far over the platform as possible. Now, a lot of people from a mobility standpoint cannot do that and get low. So they will kick out with this hip in order to get depth.
Right.
So sink lower and kick out a little.
Or they would move, yeah.
Yes, like that. Okay, so this is gonna strain through her, I almost just grabbed you. Through her groin. I literally almost just did this. And here, okay, we don't want that because while, yeah, maybe that's getting some work, that's not what we're trying to target.
Right.
So, I'm telling y'all, it does not need to be a super crazy deep movement.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I'm seeing on this is when people come up, they're pulling from this leg and not driving, and no one's correcting that a whole lot. I see these things when I'm taking class, like,
Yeah.
I can't stop looking at people. So when you sit back, almost think about kicking your hip, yeah, you saw that little thing she just did, towards the mirror.
Yeah.
And then as you come up, think about leaning into that platform leg.
And it should
come
be pretty
up.
light on the.
Yes, carriage leg. Is that what you're saying? Yes.
But little things like that are good, like camera, kicking your head out, leaning
Yes.
your weight more into
Yes.
that hip. Those things make a huge difference know exactly what you're gonna work, and if you don't know what is working, then don't do it.
Yeah.
But like know what's working so you can say, you should be feeling this in your quad, or in your glute, or your butt, if people can't, like, some people don't know what glute is, so that way they know.
I
That does
want-
make a huge difference.
And they're gonna feel it everywhere.
They will, but they're not gonna feel
Not.
where you're trying to. And can y'all visually see the difference here? What am I using mostly to come up?
Your left.
Yeah.
But what part of my leg? Your quad.
Yeah.
Can y'all see that? Do you see it? I mean, like, don't look at
Yeah.
what's engaging, but just like by the quality of my movement.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm sitting down, now can you see I'm pushing almost back and up?
Now it's like it
Well, I think that's so much harder for people to do.
It is.
Like to use your butt instead of your quad.
Instead of your
And that's
quad.
why so many people do it wrong.
Yes.
Because we're there for so long.
Well, they're also trying to get rid of
A little bit of a
I
back.
think when you, like, I try to cue this, which like visually for people, to stack the shoulder, hip, knee, and ankle all
Yes.
in one line.
Oh, that's a good cue.
That's good.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they
Oh, yeah.
don't
Because
hinge
they'll
on their
tend
I
to,
say
their
hinge,
shoulders
but-
and legs will separate.
Yes.
Especially when they get low,
Yes.
because they may not have the
Flat
flexibility.
so you're
So that
here.
only, only
This
go
is
back.
that. So here, if this was my client, I would literally come up in class. And do you see? So I just pulled her knee in, I held this to make sure, because they'll be like, oh,
Right.
be sure, be like, I got you, you're good. Now, from here, pretend like you weren't this low. Can you sink down, like, yeah, here, now press up through this leg, right? Yeah. So,
And again, stacking that whole side.
it's stacking.
And
I'll like
keep
stop,
the
I'll
shoulder-
let them go out and stop my,
Yeah,
yeah.
And that way too, they're like, oh, they're like,
And
you're in the
sitting
way,
up.
I can't get lower, I'm like, that's where you should
That's
stop.
it.
Like, do not get lower, yes.
And on that one, I see a lot of pulling instead of driving. Again, that's a visual thing I want you all to see between,
From the opposite side, you mean?
like, no, use this leg, but
And
pull
pull
instead of drive.
Yeah.
Start to, it's because you straighten too quickly. If you straighten too quickly, you will start to pull at the end rather than.
Oh, yeah, like stand in the.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
but it's usually not that clear
Yeah.
what's happening.
Right.
They also don't hinge forward, like.
Yes.
Not hinge
They don't go
forward,
down.
but like when they're doing, just everybody's up here.
Mm-hmm.
And like-
Arching, well, that's the neutral spine.
Right.
So you gotta check in with neutral
I
spine here as well.
try to find their, tilt their pelvis and then hinge forward.
Yep. And think about the core as well. The core
Yeah.
should be drawn up and in away from the lunge that's happening. So lots of things,
Which is so rough for people.
lots of things to work on from foundationally the ground up with just those two lunges, not even to
Right.
into squats, right? So,
Or adding in kicks or.
but remember where you're building from when you're looking in form and alignment. What about, let's talk about really quick when you are in a plank, just go up on the bar. Okay, so a lot of times here, when we're doing movements, go on a blue book, you're gonna die on yellow. Just being clear. I'm seeing that shoulders are not coming all the way back over the wrist, or they're not coming far enough forward in movement. So like out. Yeah. So people are here and then go plank to pike. Right. And now they're doing this to kind of cheat the movement a little, but then when they come back down, they're not resetting forward. So this, and then being sure when you're in that plank that you're resetting the neutral spine from the neck down. Not caving in and not over rounding. So do like an over rounded back when you come back down into plank, like.
It's like hard to go wrong.
Yes, because we're telling them tilt, 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 but they don't know how to, they're rounding their whole back.
Yeah.
It's like, typically with clients, what I see is that they either have an over mobile upper back, like Chris Robles,
Yeah.
think of his back, or an under mobile back. Think about the new client who teaches track. What's her name? She just moved here from out of town. She just came off of a 1 month.
Courtney,
I know people's bodies, I don't know their names.
not Courtney Lawrence from Bay St. Louis.
Maybe she coaches track.
Yeah, she's like muscular.
A little,
Yeah.
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 So, I thought you might know her body, but,
stiffen up and not come all the way forward, whereas Chris tends to stay over-rounded. So notice that in your clients and point it out to them so that they can know what to work on. Especially if you're doing like a cat-cow to warm-up class, you can see immediately where people's spinal mobility is. You'll see if they're catting and cowing through their full back, or some of them can't even do it. Some of them like can't move this and then just round. Yeah, it's just the upper. Or some of them, they try to give extension and they're just here. They can't get that full range. So it's always nice to give your clients things to progress to and work on and understand about their body. So I think that's what is gonna make a difference with elevating us as instructors, not just teaching, but pointing it out after class or saying, listen, I noticed that your spinal mobility here is really great, here it's not, that could lead to lower back pain. Or like an over-movable upper spine that it's gonna take over for a lot of your core support. So do these exercises at home, right? Start to pick those things out and try to share them with clients because it's gonna make a big difference for everyone, for us and for the clients.
And you can correct someone like saying, I mean, you should go and help and fix. But you can
Yes.
also say corrections to the whole room.
Yes.
As you're looking at that one person.
Yes.
And that helps even the person who looks like they're doing it right, maybe just engage it a little bit. Like,
Can I
Oh, yes, I love
a
that.
question?
Yes, ask it. Can I turn these lights on? Because brighter lights make me less dizzy.
Yeah.
That's weird, but.
Okay, so a lot of our clients, majority of our clients are women who have babies, right? And even some of our strongest clients
Yeah.
dip and sway their backs in their planks.
Yep.
And like refuse to drop to their knees. And I'm like, okay, well, I do it too sometimes, so I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my question is, okay, in a plank.
Here, go like,
Come to this one so the camera can see you.
Yeah, you'll be able to see this weak core. Here we go. Okay. But it's true, because, okay, my question is, like when I'm cueing, to help myself engage my lower core, if I engage my glutes, then I can tuck. A lot of our clients just have these like, you're not even thinking about your glutes, but I know like over engagement of your glutes in a plank is not good.
I know.
But
If you have a weak core,
do you know what
have
I
to.
mean?
though.
I have to, so it helps me. So like, can I cue a client if they refuse to drop to their knees? Like, okay, engage your glutes,
Tell
hold
them
them
why.
in and zip because you're arching in your back and your belly is doming out.
Tell them why. Say, I'm noticing
Yeah.
you're having a hard time pulling your core in, and keeping it where I'd like it to be to keep your form, especially after
Right.
babies.
Right.
To help with that, use the strength of your glutes to help your core stay open.
Okay.
Because
And that's what I'll
ideally,
do, because you don't want to say, okay, engage.
you're too weak, you
Right.
should.
Right. Right. Or like drop to your knees, you know, because they don't want to, which I understand, but like so many of our clients are just, they are just making it worse.
So we're about to have a pre and post-natal workshop, which
Okay.
needs to happen.
It needs to happen
Because they need to understand that being in the plank is not helping them, it's hurting them.
Yeah.
And then they come to us and they're like, well, I don't know how to six that. Well, because you won't modify, like we're telling you, you have abdominal separation.
Yeah.
So,
So that's just like, that's something I notice in every class with the majority of our clients. I'm like, y'all think you're doing this plank right, but you're not.
so maybe in the beginning of class, you announce like,
Yeah.
guys, this is what I've been
Today,
noticing.
Yeah.
And explain like in a quick 2 minutes,
Mhm.
if you've had babies, like raise your hand if you've had a baby, the whole class will. Abdominal separation is huge. When we put outward pressure on those muscles and they're already separated, you're encouraging your muscles to separate more, which is gonna widen your core.
Right.
And they'll all be like,
Yeah.
I'm coming to my knees immediately.
yeah, they're all gonna be like, is
Never
that
gonna
what
go
you
to
said?
plank again.
Never gonna go.
Never gonna go plank again in my life.
That sounds like me.
I mean, and I do it. I do
Why?
it too.
Like,
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean they don't, they just need to understand their body and understand where they need to be.
and the
personal.
awareness, because I just don't think, like, even if I'll go up and like, you know,
It's frustrating.
Like sometimes, but I mean, a lot of that is strength, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna be able to hold it for,
So then truly change their strength to
just go, yeah, move
a
it to
glue
like, yeah.
and let
Like
it go
going
with
out
the
of
height.
waist, yeah, yeah.
Maybe, like if they're really arched, that might be something you
So
start
many
to
of
do.
our clients just.
I know, and I think part of it is because honestly, and that's why I kind of want to get to the end, we might be like too hard, too fast, too much plank work
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And not focusing on the laying down, the proper form of things, this is what you should feel, this is how you build on an exercise. Because I think part of the problem is, say someone has a 6-minute plank core series written, and somebody can't do it, well, what do? Wheelbarrow for 6 minutes, and then they get sick of doing it, and they're like, screw this, I'm going back up on the bar and plank.
Yeah.
Like, you call a new exercise, and they're waiting for the instructor, they're like, whatever, and they're back up on the bar. So, I think from our standpoint as instructors, maybe we need to not necessarily take a step back, but be sure the basics are there before we're teaching all of this like crazy, plank work. Okay, ways to give adjustments. So verbally, obviously, is a very common way we're adjusting, which is great for a whole class. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's going to be kind of like your first line of defense. If you're seeing 1 or 2 clients who really need to hear something, say it to the whole class first. Let's see if we can get maybe those 2 people to listen. It most likely will help everyone else in the class. And then if you need to go up to them, go up to them. Sometimes I think that's better to try a more broad approach first, rather than standing next to a brand new person's machine and like over correcting them the whole time. A physical adjustment, when you physically touch or assist a student, remember how I said I'm gonna grab her here so she feels stable? You always wanna make sure you're assisting in a way that makes the client feel safe and stable. You don't wanna like push a knee back and then, not feel like they're safe in what you're asking them to do. And we've all had clients do this, like, whoa, I'm gonna fall. You need to make sure that they know, like, I got you, it's good. Just be sure that they're comfortable with what you're asking them to do. And then, not all students want to be touched. I'm really bad about this. I don't ask how to touch. But
I always ask.
I know, you're so polite.
You're
You're so polite. You don't like to be touched, do you?
I feel like I'm getting better at my age,
Yeah.
But like,
But that's why you're more aware, like, it doesn't bother me, and also I'm like, hey, so and then I'm like,
Yeah. Especially.
off, 1 finger, plank, where you should go.
So you can just quickly ask, do you mind if I show you? And most people are okay with it. So those are your options when your verbal cues aren't being heard. Demoing is always an option, but I think I've broken all of your habits of demoing on machines. We had Emily love to demo on that machine. Every exercise. So the problem with demoing is that the clients start to rely on watching you to understand what to do rather than doing it from a verbal cue. So we kind of want to use that as the last resort, but use it if you need it. Like if y'all are about to teach something new and y'all know it's going to be a cluster, come to the front of the room, the exercise before, and then when you're calling that exercise, if you need to demo something, do it, but don't demo every exercise. But I think we could use it more strategically when we need to.
I definitely agree, like when you're doing something new.
Yes.
It is so much better if you can show them real quick instead of like verbally telling them if they've ever seen it or heard of it before.
Yeah.
Cause they're like talking, like lay on your left side and they're looking.
Cause like I've been like,
the left
you've been
side.
a lot of my stuff.
No,
which I
on
love.
your left
Like
side.
I've never done it, like I'm even like, what? I've
Yeah.
never done this before, cause I'm like thinking of like in my bank, like, okay, what exercise is she about to, but like
Yeah.
it's not in your book, so I'm like, I don't know.
You're like, I don't like you. I don't like you. I don't like you.
The best is when Taylor takes and she's making face like,
Like this, with the camera way back.
I'm like,
don't teach something, especially with me in your class, and like someone can't do it and you're looking at me like, I don't know, I didn't know this movie too. So just please be sure clients are safe, and that you know what you're doing, because even if you're calling something out and you're not really sure, it's very evident to clients that you're not really sure, and that's not a good feeling from a client standpoint to be like, is she sure about what she's asking me to do? I've even been taking next to somebody who looked at me and said, is this safe? A client looked at me and said, is this safe? And I said, I'm not really sure, to be honest with you.
Oh no, that was it.
No, I don't remember who it was. There was a Bosu on top, and we were kneeling on a Bosu doing like karate kick stuff. And like single arm bird dog sweeps on a Bosu. And I'm like,
So here's my question too. I guess maybe because I am a dancer and like repetitive, like ballet doesn't change. Like you're gonna do
Yes.
the same thing over and over and over. And it does like at times get monotonous, right? But like we talk about that foundation. Like I feel like my classes are very simple and I tend to do a lot of the same things, but I feel like it's easier to execute. And I feel like
agree.
sometimes when we
You get
add
proficient at teaching
all the
that too,
things,
which is
it's
great
like
for
the quality. I don't know,
quality
I just feel like
diminishes.
even like as a teacher who understands my body, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes if it's overcomplicated, you're not getting as much out of that hour as just like breaking
Doing
it down to
the
the
thing.
bare, like, I don't know.
I
I
agree.
think I'm opposite in that.
And I'm no, you're not wrong, but then there's also like I teach 5 days a week, so like
Yeah.
Pilates every day. So sometimes there's like a pressure of like, I literally
Yes.
cannot teach this again. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I've I've done all the variations, and so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna throw you on some kind of wild. But to your point, like, I've learned, and Taylor is like giving me good tips of like, that was really good, but like, just do that one new thing, and I've got, okay, I'm gonna do one new block. And then everything else will make sense with that block, but it's all gonna be straightforward, so that way their brains can go, okay, like, know the expectation and set your expectation. Like I've said a few times, like, okay, we're gonna be doing some new stuff today.
Yeah.
So that way then their, first of all, their light bulb's gonna turn on to listen,
Yeah.
because they're like, new stuff, when's it coming, so they'll pay attention. And then knowing where you are gonna work, and knowing your modifications, like, does help. But to your point, yes, it's simple stuff.
But to that point, you could take a very basic class, say one of Ashley's like straightforward basic classes. You could change the spring to a glue and step their hands out halfway over the carriage, and it's a whole new class. It doesn't have to
Add in a ball.
Add in a ball,
Like,
add in a
that's what
ring.
I'll do, add in a weighted ball
Yeah.
or something, and it's like,
It doesn't have to
or
be
just
this
change
like.
up how it goes, like today we reversed in Alexis' class, like you started with the kicks and then added it in, and
Yes.
something like that. It changes, like for them, they feel like they're doing something different, now they all get confused, because they're like, what are you
Why
telling
are we
me to
doing
do?
this?
Like, so sometimes I'll do like, you know, and I'll do it, add the kicks, and then go back to the,
Yes.
just a straight leg lunge, and they're like, why are we going back? And it's like, well, the time helps, it helps us start waking up,
Yeah.
or just get something different that day, cause I'm, you know. need
'Cause I'm
something.
bored.
But if you can do that, if you can say
But-
that, like,
Yes.
that we're gonna hold to like
Yes.
build the fatigue into that leg,
Right.
then add the lunge, then they're like, oh.
Yes, and then they get it,
Yeah.
and it's time, and that kind of stuff, so.
But
It's
I
all
definitely
way of
agree
way
with
words.
Yes.
So even, I mean, I think that's great with having so many Pilates instructors, although, you know, like everybody kind of has the same class times and all the same people, but if they come to a different one and it's completely
Yes.
different,
Yes.
then whoever, whatever, everybody else is teaching, so.
Yeah. And I think intention in your cues, in your interactions is super important. It's easy to get frustrated with a client in class. It is really easy because you are managing 900 things. You got 2 to 3 new clients. One of them's flailing around. One of them's crying. She wants to leave. Like, who knows what's gonna happen? Remember that woman who left?
I was like,
Yeah, it happens.
It's the first time that ever happened.
She walked out. She's like, she left.
She cried.
She left.
No, she
No,
was
she's
just
like,
like, I'm
not
just
really
done.
crying. Oh, she did call me crying. Yes.
She did call her. It wasn't me. She wasn't. It wasn't. You
Yeah.
clarified it wasn't.
We clarified it was not Alexis.
But yeah.
So
hard, yeah.
it's hard, but just take a deep breath and just remember, like, in the big scheme of things, it's a Pilates class.
Yeah.
So like,
I had a client during her, we were doing lateral lunges on the floor, because she just could not. And she was like, I'm so glad you told me to go down on the floor to do
even necessarily correct. So like,
Yes.
don't, and I've said that to people too, like, just because everybody, you're looking at someone in front of you
Yes.
dropping low, does not mean, and then they're like, oh, okay. I said, as long as you feel like where you should be engaging, then it's okay. And then if they feel comfortable to go to the floor, then yeah.
Yeah, right, and that's the thing, it's like, I'm like, make it smaller, you know, you can say that.
Yeah.
Are you leaving at 3:15? Okay, I'm gonna skip to the last page, and then we're gonna come back.
Yeah.
Because I wanna go through this more. Okay, I want to talk through, if you have a brand new client, we talked about doing this and like making a book on this. Because we've had some issues with privates only wanting to work with certain people, and then they work with someone else, and then they're like, I didn't like that as much. I only want to work with this person, right? But it shouldn't be that way, and I feel like it was a teaching error on my part in not having everybody up to the same speed when it comes to for privates in general, because they're different. So when you're teaching a private, I want you to have a checklist in your brain of, I need to start at a certain point with each body part and make sure these clients can do this, then this, then this, then this, before they can progress to anything else. That's the way my brain works when I'm doing, even like a fit person, right? Because you could have someone who has a personal trainer and does CrossFit and has never been taught to engage in a core, so don't make assumptions. You could have a runner who can run but has never done anything like cross training. So most all of privates, I'm gonna talk y'all through how I would start, and it's written out here on the back, and how I would progress. So Alexis, you're gonna be my private.
I'm assuming you're starting.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so what is the foundation of Pilates?
Pelvic tilt.
And breathing. Right? Breath. So breath to movement is one of like the 7 foundations of Joseph Pilates, and we forget about that a lot. That we need to be exhaling and inhaling properly, and we need to be exhaling to engage our muscles, not exhaling to release our muscles. Does that make sense? So put your hands on your rib cage. Good. Now I just want you to take big breaths and feel your rib cage expand. So big breaths, let your rib cage come out. Exhale, bring it in. So here she's taking belly breaths, which means her rib cage is coming out, her belly's expanding, her belly's nice and relaxed. She's not worried about engaging her core at all. Okay? This is not what we want to do with Pilates. Okay? So we'll get back to breath in a second. We're gonna talk about a pelvic tilt. So hands on your hip bones. Good. Now I want you to take your hip bones and peel your pelvis down and in, lower back presses down into the carriage, engaging the lower core, and there should be no space between her low back and the carriage. I cue a lot, center line of the hands towards the chest. Yeah? Okay, now I want you to inhale and exhale. Think about drawing your core and engaging your muscles as you take your pelvic tilt. Good. Now, I'm going quickly, right? Because we're progressing. Now I want you to hold your pelvic tilt and inhale and exhale. Put your hands back on your ribs, but don't let that expansion happen. So can you stay engaged through your core? You should feel this burn continue. Give yourself air as you inhale. Exhale, squeeze tighter through the lower belly muscles. So y'all can see, right? She's not releasing this. And her breath looks different. Her rib cage is not coming up and down, out and in. It is a little bit, but not as much as before. Now, I want to see when you exhale that your pelvic tilt gets stronger and that these muscles engage more. Inhale, exhale, pelvic tilt stronger, engage. Did y'all see that? It was like, inhale, exhale, pelvic tilt stronger, engage. Good. So this, we just taught her how to engage her core and how to breathe without releasing her core. Okay, that was like a quick explanation, but that is where you want to start with everyone, because a lot of times they can't even teaching her breath to movement, right? Exhaling on the most difficult part of the movement, combining that with the engagement of her lower core, keeping the pelvic tilt. Nice. Okay, so we would do this for a whole minute, right? We're now probably at minute 6 or 7. Like, this is the whole thing. It's not a quick, 30-second thing. Now we need to see if she can hold, I'm gonna skip this step. Maybe you add a prop, right? So you're like, okay, we got pelvic tilt. Now pelvic tilt and squeeze your ball. Now pelvic tilt and squeeze your ring. Now pelvic tilt and press out into your ring, right? So we're just waking up the inner thighs, waking up the outer thighs, giving them a challenge of actual movement with the pelvic tilt and core engagement. Because once you progress, they've got to think about 25 different things in engaging their core and breathing. So it kind of gives them a little segue into that. So now you need to make sure they can do single leg tabletop. So she's going to find the pelvic tilt, tabletop, good, and hold. Okay, so now we've got to add variations with just this. Can she tap her toe down and up and not lose it? Maybe we do this for 45 seconds, a minute. Now can you extend your leg out and in? This one is where you'll see a lot of times they'll start to lose their pelvic tilt. Can you make sure she's still drawing her pelvis in deeper as her knee pulls in? Get them in the habit of not just moving their leg, but also thinking about their core. Then she would do the other leg. Okay, great. So now she can hold single leg tabletop and keep her core engaged. Now she goes into double leg tabletop. This might be minute 10, y'all. Like, we cannot be taking people here in minute 1 of a private because they're not ready for it. They haven't been taught how to breathe, how to engage the core, how to progress to this point. And for us as instructors, this seems so big. Tabletop is like basic, right? Like, everyone can do tabletop. Everyone cannot do
I feel
tabletop.
like most privates cannot
Can't.
do tabletop.
But like even me doing this and like being forced to go back to like the simple, I'm like, I feel.
You feel it burn.
And like I feel like, ooh, like where the weak spots are. So like if you even have time to like do it yourself.
Yes.
You realize because sometimes even with privates, you get in your head like, it's gotta like still be working.
Yes.
So like that, if they're doing it right, like it is hard. You know, it is good work.
And if you let them do each movement for long enough, like if you just pelvic tilt, you really squeeze it.
Oh, yes.
It's
Oh yeah, that's my other, was gonna be my question.
Yes.
Future is what I'm finding in some of the privates is they can't do it for a minute or they can't even do 5, okay, let's do 5.
then they rest.
And then you just rest and, so I'm like, is that okay? Like,
Yes.
we're not gonna get mad that we're not, really working so hard, not really working so hard, but something,
You know, like the client getting frustrated.
yes, but they're not getting as much out of it.
For them, if
And
they
I'm
can't-
like, I feel like it's you don't wanna say well, you're not ready to really be doing this. It's a double, I feel like it's a fine line, but I do find in the private, they do give up more,
They do.
than in a group setting, not necessarily, and some of them should give up. Some of them physically just aren't there yet, but, so I mean, what do you
From an
suggest?
instructor standpoint, I think that's where you get creative, right? So say Alexis just did her single leg marches, okay? She did all of that fine. We try to go up to tabletop and her back is arching. Oh, we can't do it. No problem. Put your legs
Yes.
back down. Okay, now let's work some arms. Arms come up, lift the one leg again. Now maybe we do some dead bug. One arm reaches back.
Right.
Maybe we go to different variations.
Yeah.
To where okay. Right, so then it makes them feel like, oh, she just wanted me to do something different. Like they
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Cause I had, I think 2 or 3 where it's I'm get them, they start simple as
Yes.
just with them, and I'm like, they can't do that yet,
That's why I was
So
always
it's
so
then you have to
mom.
stop them, and then I feel like there's a little slight disappointment, I try to play it off, and maybe it's just me personally being they're disappointed that they couldn't do it, and they're fine, so it's a balance, because you're also figuring out what they can do.
Saying that they're private as an assessment is a
Yeah.
really, I think, just
Yeah.
setting that expectation in the beginning is really
Yeah.
important so that they understand if I Okay, so now, and if she can't hold tabletop, so right now I'm gonna say we're gonna progress to abdominal curls here. But if she can't hold tabletop, then you're gonna progress to abdominal curls with the feet down, right? And we're just gonna crunch, that might be it. Here and lower, that's it. But pretend like you're good there and come up to here. So we're not gonna move legs and upper body together because we made sure she was okay here, but now we need to make sure she's okay from here. Are her shoulders all up in her ears? Is she over engaging through the neck? Can she breathe? Is she holding her breath, right? Is she flinging herself up? All of those things, we're now assessing from here up, okay? So now just abdominal curls, whatever you want with the arms. You can reach, you can make circles, you can put the hands behind the head, yep. Now from here, Sarah, to your point, if you were having trouble progressing from here, then maybe you go get a yoga block and you have them hold here and push into one leg, come up and crunch and release. Then do it cross body, right? Think about different variations in this position.
And even a ball.
Maybe you just have them hold here, put the ball here and squeeze the ball as they now pelvic tilt from this position.
Right.
So getting creative with variations in their safe position is I think the key to making
I just feel like I'm running 800 times, like grabbing this or doing this,
Yes.
or you're like switching them around,
Yeah.
and adjusting. But I mean, I'm glad that it's normal.
Yes.
Us doing that.
Now, okay, we looked at her upper body, so now go back into tabletop. Now we're gonna leave the upper body down. Now we need to see what she can do with both legs up, which is very different from what she was doing with both legs down. A march from tabletop is much harder than a march from both feet planted. And you'll notice a lot of people cannot do this when they could do it the other way. So now, start with your march. So the second sometimes here they go to lower, their back's gonna arch and they lose their core. Or they forget to breathe, or their rib cage starts to flare.
Or both legs go, or
So that's important to look for too. You wanna be sure that, this knee isn't pulling in, right? You wanna be sure that they're not tiptoeing here, because that's not doing anything. And then from there, okay, you look pretty good. Maybe you can do some extensions, single leg, nope, not double leg yet, single leg. Yep. Okay, you look pretty good there. Now maybe we can do head and legs together. So can you extend and crunch? Yes. And the whole time you're still cueing the pelvic tilt and you're still cueing where they should be breathing. Notice she has not touched a strap. We are not doing arms in straps. We are not doing any of that until all of this is beautiful. And I'm seeing that a lot with new people coming in. I'll walk in and like, a man's on a blue and a yellow doing crunches and he can't even do a pelvic tilt, right? So think about this, all your checkpoints. So from here, I'm like, okay, she's good. Well, let's see what she looks like with her legs straight. And this is a huge problem, a huge one that I run into. They can't straighten their legs because of flexibility. So not only can they not straighten their legs, but they can't get their legs over their hips, so they're here. So what is holding her legs up? Here. Her hip flexors, hip flexors. Right. So if they cannot find the alignment, go back to alignment of this, then their core cannot help hold their legs up. So they do not need to be in this position ever until they can get their feet over their hips. And you need to tell them that, like Chris Rokas, that's great. He can't get his feet over his hips, okay? But he knows, I'm like, Chris, and I explained this exact thing to him, Chris, when your legs are here, your hip flexors are taking over, that's pulling into your lower back. We don't want that because we're trying to strengthen your core. We've got to loosen up your hamstrings enough that you can get your feet over your hips because that's really good core work you're missing out on. And he's like, great, well, let's stretch my hamstrings. So we'll do all this pelvic tilt work, and then we do 6 minutes of hamstring stretching. Let me spit on you, sorry. To get his hamstrings loosened up so that one day he can straighten his legs. Don't forget that Pilates is about flexibility as well. We get so caught up, so caught up in work, strength, that we forget about the other part of it, and that the lack of flexibility is going to prevent them from doing a lot of good movements. So
go grab a ring, we would do single leg stretch, we would do double leg stretch. I would take you out into a groin stretch. I would stretch your IT band. I would have you pedal 1 foot at a time up into the ring. I would have you place, 1 foot down. I might even assist you in some stretching, right? And then I'll leave that alone because you're not ready to go there, right? And we move on to something else. If you were ready to go there, it would be the same thing. How does she look single leg work? So dropping one leg down at a time, maybe you do some reverse bicycle work. Again, holding one leg up is different from holding one leg up in tabletop. So you have to assess all the different positions. Then from here, I'm gonna see how her upper body looks with her legs straight. Sometimes people can't get the idea of keeping their feet over their hips as they crunch. It's like they can't keep them there with their upper body moving. And then, only then, if she's ready, then we can say crunch and drop one leg. Yes. So this would be like advanced on day 1, or maybe even day 5, like who knows. So really be cognizant of, I know we're always wanting to use the machine, get it moving, use props, but we have to have the foundation before you can go to that. And it's gonna make you not so stressed in your private, because I could have just filled 22 minutes with what I just showed y'all. Because that's usually what I do, like that whole thing with some stretching with the privates who need it. And then we're like, course done, let's move on to legs. So that
And we would kind of keep doing that.
Correct.
Every time.
Little variations, like
Yeah.
today I did with
Right.
Brenda, I had her go back to the, like dead bug, but I got her the weights today.
yes.
So that way she had arm and she was like, oh my gosh, I feel such a difference where like I know she was struggling just to do it without me. She's like, I feel such a difference now, I can engage my core deeper
Yeah.
because she knows what it should feel like versus,
And it shows them progress. I feel like when we're jumping around to so many different exercises, it's hard for them to sometimes feel like, oh wow, I just moved forward in that and got stronger. So yeah, like some clients, I'll say go warm up with your pelvic tilt, like, if they're early, I'll be in there in a minute, and they're in here doing their breathing, doing their pelvic tilt, feeling their ribs, and it's really good for them to also know, like, this is where we're starting, like, I know this, and then you would progress the straps from there. Real quick, before Lauren goes, I'm gonna do bridges. Okay, so never, ever, ever should a client be started doing bridge work on a bar. It should always start on a platform, okay? And it should never start with a full bridge either, because remember, a bridge goes from a pelvic tilt to an imprinted bridge, which is rib cage down a little higher, a little more tucked. Here, and then to your full bridge all the way up. So some people don't have the quad and hip flexor flexibility to go all the way up. They can't keep the alignment with their knees and ankles and hips, and this might hurt some of their backs. So this, you don't know if they're ready to go there yet. And there's really no need to take them there in the first minute of bridge work. You should start pelvic tilt, if you haven't already done them. And sometimes I will mix this in with my other set. Like if we did marches, then I might say, okay, now take baby bridges. They can go kind of hand in hand. Then maybe you go imprinted bridge. So press up and then right back down. And then maybe you do that and you add the squeeze of a ball. So you go imprinted bridge, squeeze, good, and release. That's a whole minute. Then, can you do an imprinted march? So you're here. Can you just, it might not even be all the way up. Maybe you just barely leave the platform. I know, it's hard, right?
I
And
didn't realize how sore my quads were. I pressed all the way up.
And if somebody can't march, then you would ask them just to barely lift their foot off the platform to get the transfer of weight there and down. Like, that's hard for people. Because remember, we're looking for the hips not to rock. So if they can't keep the pelvic stability and keep the hips where they need to be, then they don't need to be marching all the way up. Then at this point, you could go to a full bridge. So coming all the way up, and you'll know there's 9 million things to do here. You can squeeze the ball, you can press out on the ring, you can march, you can pulse. Then after you've done this whole thing, you might progress to the bar. coming up to 1 or 2. The bar in position 1 is going to be more of a hamstring activation. The bar in position 2 is going to get more into your quads. I tend to like 2 versus neutral. Actually, this is a lot of hamstring for 2, but it's in the class.
So Nikki and I had this conversation.
I don't like neutral.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I remember so Kristen told me like a year ago, I remember it was 1, 2 the other way.
Neutral.
Neutral 1, 2. I probably just said it backwards. Neutral 1, 2.
So that's what I did call it.
Y'all can call it the opposite?
No.
No, I just said it wrong. I just said
She
it
just
wrong.
said it wrong.
Nikki and I talked about this, but
Yeah.
when we're like, so it's like, yeah, so it's neutral 1, 2.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
because you just said it the other way, that's
I
my
did.
shit.
So I was like, wait, the whole year, I'm wrong. Y'all were right. Y'all were
But
right.
that's-
I just don't know, I get so confused sometimes, like,
Think 0, 1, 2.
Yeah, that's what I think. 1, 2, 3,
which
right?
makes sense, okay.
Yes.
But if I just didn't, I was like, I usually either just put it there for him, and then if you need it a little less challenging, put it down.
Yes. Yeah. But it's okay, you don't need to
Explain why you don't like neutral.
I don't like neutral because I feel like it gets into people's backs and it's too high. You're losing the engagement of the glute and the hamstrings, and you're almost going into more of like a stretch through the front of the legs.
And like for a short person like me, it's like really freaking hot.
And
I feel like when you're long, I'm so close.
You're close.
Because my shoulders have to be so close. So then I'm like,
You're
there are
cramped.
people that are.
I have a back injury and it doesn't feel so great on my back, so it's just, I think, personally me in life, I don't like it.
Yeah, I feel like I always.
No, I like neutral if I'm gonna be doing presses.
Press.
Yes.
Right.
But think about this, y'all. If you want to be doing bridges in here, you just increase your weight to 3 reds and a yellow, right? Or something like that, and you press from 1. And then,
I feel like it gets on my shin, like my front,
mine
like,
too.
if it's lower than neutral, like I feel like it.
when you're
Not-
pressing or
yeah.
when you're.
Well, I feel like
bridging?
both.
You
like-
prefer neutral.
Yes, but
Maybe
I'm
show
tall,
them.
I'm like, I'm probably taller than some.
I was about to say, I think your legs are probably
My
long.
legs
your
are
legs are
way
way
longer
longer
than
than
mine.
mine.
Yeah, I'm a lot of torso.
So I can have that heel to knee alignment, whereas the
Yes.
taller person's gonna be.
Can't.
You know what I mean? So it's different. You have to think about this.
I know.
That is really a good
You know,
point.
yeah.
And if we're reminding the clients that it's gonna look different, it's like they'll look at their neighbor and like,
Yeah.
Yep.
our
Like
bodies
shorty.
on this machine are gonna look very
Very
different.
different.
Like a shorty, you should maybe, like me, I should maybe be on position 2.
I would
You know
agree.
what I mean? So it just
Yep.
depends.
And if I'm on 2, like lower, I can just really isolate my glutes. If I'm up, I'm getting like, there's my glute, there's my hamstring, there's my quad, there's my, so it's not wrong or right, but just understand the difference. And remember Amanda, right? She always liked them in 1 because neutral, I don't know, yeah, you hear me, right? She always did leg work in neutral, in 1 because she did not like neutral. So you're gonna have clients, and some clients might think that's wrong or right, it's just different. Just explain to them why it's different. And I think sometimes they don't like to understand that it's different, like they'll look at you like,
Yeah.
but height matters, all of those things. I don't have it written out, but I just wanna talk through it. When it comes to leg work with privates, a private should never be started standing on a machine. Ever, 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 ever. They should always start with leg presses to kind of assess like, where are we on these springs, right? And the woman you're going to train, she like presses on the blue and yellow and it just burns so bad. You're like, wow. we're
Yeah,
gonna-
like one side of her hip, one hip is like so weak that,
Yeah.
and the other one, we have to like it's like polar opposite springs.
Well, I
So we're
think-
working on getting it in balance, but she has knee issues, like no cartilage, so like standing lunges are not
Not an
even
option.
an option. So variations of, like today I did her presses, but I had her doing like that inner thigh lift.
Yeah.
And like little extra things, and she was like, oh, freaking out.
So in my mind, I would go, just like say you had 10 privates, where would you try to take that client? Start Then maybe we're gonna stand on the floor for a side lunge, so they don't really have to stabilize, but you can see how their balance is in an upright position. Then from there, maybe way down the road, once you feel comfortable, they can come up here. Now, if you have a stronger client, I'm not saying you can't stand them up, but we're talking about people who are,
Most people that do private.
most people that do private.
Question, so for like something like that, could we get like a set of gliders for the studio? Do we have those?
We
Because
can
that
use
could be
some.
a cool
I was thinking about
way of
that.
introducing
Yes.
those things without having them on the machines.
Yes.
You know, like this is what it's
That's a
gonna
good
feel
idea.
like.
That's
This is
smart.
what-
Yeah, I'll get some
I
gliders.
mean, we can use towels, so we'll probably just.
Are you gonna send them to-
Yeah, I'm gonna send it out, yeah.
That's all right.
Thank you for coming.
Yep,
Thank you. See y'all later.
I mean, it's all older people, but we have, they're little mats, but
Yeah.
I've been doing Pilates, like not Pilates.
Yes,
But
yeah.
I call it like, there's a little bit of
Yeah.
Pilates
Yeah.
movement with their chair. And they're
Yeah.
resting there, it's like a glider back and in, and then we do, it's really cute.
happy.
It's
Well,
hard,
it's hard.
it's hard.
Yo, we could really do an older population class. There are so many opportunities, but if we don't all know how to teach in that manner,
Right.
we can't, right?
It's so different, like,
It is.
It is.
it's real, I mean, for me, it's all about their quality of life. A lot of people can't do that, like, can't do.
Well, not your age
No.
group, but 70,
Yeah.
75-year-old healthy older people, absolutely.
But I also think.
Well, I meant
that
like the
we-
pelvic tilt, just
Oh,
like the
the
basic
basics,
stuff. I
I
mean,
see.
you'd be on that for really long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a.
We'd be pelvic tilting the whole hour.
We'd be on
I feel like
They just don't understand, they don't grasp the
I
concept.
don't know, market or whatever to a very specific group of
We
like
do.
young, fit people.
We do.
And I feel like so many of, even my friends who are fit people are like, oh, I can't work. I'm like, come work out
Yeah.
here.
Yes.
Like, there are 70-year-olds that work out here. There are, teenagers that work out here. We are very open, but I think, if we start, I don't know, if we started doing like I don't know, I just
An
feel
intro
like,
class.
yeah, and like posting that to our Instagram,
Yes.
like people seeing different people in here than like really beautiful fit people.
Well, it's great, right?
Yeah,
But it's
Well,
true.
that's true, but
It's true
yeah,
that
like,
the
I don't
biggest
know,
thing we did is
real people
intimidation.
in here, yeah.
It's intimidation and thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be that person in class.
Right.
Like, how
One thing also
Great
is highlight
people.
our clients that don't look like that
No.
too,
Yes.
that are strong and do really good.
Yeah.
Like I try when we're in here, to get them in the video,
Yes.
and like that we post and stuff so that way. Because our clients don't necessarily look like that. We have like
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
different, especially I feel like in my evening crew.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but like,
So-
but those clients also feel really comfortable and welcome.
They do.
You know what I
Yes,
mean?
they do.
Because they keep coming back.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think we could have more of that clientele if, I don't know, I'm thinking about that a lot.
Well, and we're working on kind of changing our marketing to be more inclusive,
It's
how
such a balance
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
because because people do want to look like that. Like
Yeah.
they do want, not look like it, but they want to, there is a,
That's what
a
they're
That
striving
goal,
for.
yeah.
Yes.
that is,
Absolutely.
like, so it's such a hard balance.
It is.
Figuring out, what, but I mean, yes, but our classes aren't easy if you
Yeah.
did it, because when you have like so many different people, but they're totally, like, you modify, you can do it, everyone can do it, so.
But here's where I think we're failing sometimes in that. We say like, we don't have leveled classes, everyone's welcome. And
Right.
then these new people come in and they're starting on another spring.
No, it's not. Yeah.
And-
And they're like looking at me like.
And they're dying, and that person
Yeah.
should be on a blue the whole
Yes.
class and on their knees. And then they would walk out being like, I can do this.
But I think in another way, on the flip side of that is like, if that person, if you have to modify them so
Correct.
much, then they're like, I can't work out.
Yeah.
Well, and this is what we talked about too in our meeting last week,
Yeah.
is that we all need to be equipped enough to be like, hey, you did so great, like that,
Yeah.
encourage, and
For
then
sure.
be able to say like, hey, so I'm sure you noticed I was able to, I changed your springs up a little bit because I wanted you to feel comfortable, blah, blah, blah. And then be able to suggest that they take private, because the facts are,
for sure.
like 50%, and that's being conservative,
Yeah.
should be taking a
Yes.
private before they get on
Oh,
these
yes.
machines. So, but like everybody wants to like, I'm a, no, I don't wanna do it. Like, so that, yes, but when they feel that they like, they know they have modifications, like, yes, So then offering that private so that they feel more confident and say like, so that way when you come to your class again, you feel like you understand what's happening, what should happen in your body.
Yeah.
For sure.
We have a whole another training we're gonna do. We like wrote out our sales process, not that we want y'all to be salesmen, but I think it's gonna help y'all in that area to feel, understand and feel more comfortable having those conversations, because I think that is a breakdown in the process of, we finally get this woman to walk through the door, which is the hardest part, and they come in, and then they leave feeling not so great. And the instructor's like, you did great, great job, and they sit in their car and they're like, I did not do great.
You never know, yeah.
I couldn't do any of that, and then we lose them. So,
and knowing that every person at a Green Star, by the end of like your class, you should be able to, you as an instructor are able to assess like they're gonna be fine in classes or they need private, and it should be one or the other. And then encouraging them, like facilitating that throughout the whole class.
Yeah.
So they're either gonna feel like sometimes Taylor does it a lot, I'll do it like just adjust those strings.
I just tell them
And don't even know what I just did, but I was like,
I just tell them before class, I'm like, you know, your springs and your stuff might look a little different than everyone else's today, and like, we're just, you know, like, it may be, don't, you know, and I'm just like, just so way they have like a little bit of a heads up, because sometimes they don't realize I changed it, and then they look over at their neighbor, and they're like, oh, I'm not on the right thing.
and then they change it back.
Yeah, well, when you change it, make sure you're engaging in some interaction.
No, I know what you mean.
You know, because you're really excited.
I know, it's like such a balance of.
Yeah, so if you can make them feel comfortable throughout the whole process, then at the end, they're gonna be waiting for you to, they're anticipating you to come and say like, whatever, validate how well they did, and then just offer the option, and then they'll be like, oh, you're right, I do need to like take it private, and they don't feel like they can walk out and can't come back. Yeah.
Or, and I don't wanna go too far in this, because we're gonna talk about it in the other workshop, but I think having a meaningful conversation, like if I went up to Alexis and I said, I noticed you were having, in our core work, your pelvic tilt, I would have liked to be a little stronger. Not that you can't do it, not you failed, right? I would really like to see that be a little stronger, and I think what's holding you back is glute strength. So, would you be open to do 3 privates? I really wanna focus on your glutes to help your core. Like, that is a direction you're sending them in versus, I just want you to feel better on the machine. And so would you do some privates? And
They're they're not gonna be like, I'm gonna feel better in a couple classes.
Right, like let them
And
know
pay
it's
attention and know it's like,
specific.
this is what I see in your body.
Exactly, yeah, exactly, or I noticed some of your alignment as well, I'd really like to work with you on your spinal alignment, your knee ankle stability, because I think that's gonna help you feel more balanced and grounded on the machine, and they'd be like, great. And it also lets them know that you're an expert on the subject, and that you actually paid attention to them in class, and that they're going somewhere, not just like paying for a private.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Once and then on the other side, I mean, there might be some new clients that don't, I mean, everyone needs, it would benefit from private,
Yeah,
but
you
they
do it.
don't really, like, I find somewhere, like, they just need, like, to have the confidence of the machine, like, in
Yes.
terms of, like, I need 2 or 3 classes, and like, those people I feel like are the ones that we have currently, so I
Yes.
kind of do run into a couple of those types of people where, like, I mean, you know, yes, they can use a private or 2 in, like, just because, but they just
need to get
And you just go through reassurance of like, just so you know,
yeah,
it
you'll
takes,
get, right.
you will get more comfortable as you get on the machine more,
Right.
like, and
Right.
just let them know that, like, more classes as they go, they
Yeah.
will build that.
Yes,
versus if
right.
you don't think they can.
Right, and I was like, you know, everyone in here had a first class, and so that always helps the people, you know, to understand that side of it, but, yes, new clients are, and not just new, I mean, sometimes it's clients have taken 10 or 15 or 20 or way more, but, you know, we're being nice.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, all of you need a private.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to modifications on the second page. So we talked about this a little bit, using props to set your students up for success, to modify intensity, really either up or down. Like if someone's kicking butt on something and you wanna, you know, give them a little challenge, I wouldn't like pull somebody out of the ball when no one else has a ball, but you know, maybe you slightly change the body position or something to make it a little more challenging for
pinky toe got stuck on it. So as instructors, let's have our eyes. I know. And Ashley was out for like 2 months, like a long.
Yeah, I knew that she had an injury, I didn't realize what, I mean, someone said it was like jumping, but I didn't know like what.
Here, she didn't tell me, like, you didn't tell me you broke your ankle at my studio. She's
She
like,
said she was trying to make it harder and tap her butt to the ball, and when she jumped in, like, she didn't realize how close it was, and she's
So
like,
that's
what I get for being an
It's like
overachiever.
not the stuff that we tell them to do.
Yeah, sure.
That they, and so it's such a hard balance, cause it's like, you know,
But then
sometimes
once
they.
you take ownership of it
Yes,
and move it.
for sure.
Like,
I
I've
should
done
not
it.
break your ankle. Come on.
Like Franny, I'm like, yes, spring back on, and then like, I'm like, don't worry, we're gonna get there. Like, you can do that because, just because it's, you
I
can,
have to
it's
tell,
being shown.
you know the ones that you have to tell over and over, like.
But you just do it, or you just move it, or you
Yeah.
just whatever,
No,
because
and I mean, I do
at the end of the day, it's our, like, it's the
Yes.
life.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, my
Yeah.
life is that's for sure.
People in Burn. Right?
Wait, what?
She's talking about me.
I was just saying I haven't seen Freddie in a long time. I didn't know
Man,
she was still
Sunday
here.
is
She's
popping.
still here. I think
She,
she saw her last week.
she comes on Thursday, cause I teach the 8 and 9.
She should take mine on Tuesdays.
Maybe she just switched to just schedule a little. Make a pose more challenging, helping with balance, neutral alignment. I want everyone's goal to be alignment over the next like month. Make that your goal. Like, how can you really fix someone's alignment? I even noticed with instructors sometimes, like Lindsay Maxwell had a really rounded upper back. People who, I check my alignment, I stare at myself in the mirror the whole time because I'm like, oh, what do you know?
Because I can't get there.
Yeah.
I know that it's wrong.
Yeah, chin's
That's what I've
down,
been noticing.
wheelbarrow.
It helps to remind clients to use the mirror. 'Cause
Yes.
They just get so in their body, I'm like.
And they don't want to look at themselves.
Oh yeah, I'm always telling like,
But I said last week, very much not the key.
Make difficult moves more accessible. Don't forget about this. I want to show y'all this real quick. Alexis, grab a ball. If you are having a client who's having trouble with core work, so say you're doing a foot strap series seated, and they just can't do a sit up, right? Or it's hurting their low back. Don't forget, like, put that ball behind their lower back here, and then limit the range of motion. You go back, stop, you exhale, you crunch in. Like, this is beautiful for them. And the rest of the class is coming all the way
I
down.
did a class like that, and everybody just didn't know where, like, couldn't figure out where to put the ball.
So you have to think about your
Like,
verbal
I,
cue.
well, I was helping them try to adjust it, and then they would sit up, adjust again, and I was just like, I thought it was gonna be, well, I did, what we were using, it was a while ago, but I was using straps, I was facing this way. Your face is-
Bless you.
I'm just thinking about what I was doing. And we were leaning back, doing some stuff, and then I would come up and do some core, we did some leg stuff, and everybody just had.
So
to
you
sit
have
down.
if you can't stay down on the ball,
I'm
you
not.
lose the ball.
Yeah, so you can't come up all
You
the way.
can't come all the way.
Oh, yeah, well,
Oh, that's probably what
I
you're doing
mean,
though.
that's probably what they were doing. and
But
I
did you
guess I
have to
just
sit
said,
all the way up for your core work?
No, I wanted them to keep, like, my whole goal of the class was to keep them engaged.
What do you want?
And
A blue
then
and a yellow or?
work their arms.
Okay, you're in blue and yellow.
Yes. We started doing that, yeah.
So like flying.
Yeah.
But you can't, I mean, you can't come up cause I'll lose the ball. So unless like, did you tell them to stay down?
We were trying, I wanted them to keep their core engaged and stay.
Maybe the weight of the straps is throwing it off.
Like,
Because
I
feel
feel like
you're
I'll
like,
have to really stay and then, which I mean is the challenge.
Right.
But maybe because the straps wanting to like take me back
I guess I
forward.
never thought about that.
yeah.
Like when I fully release,
Not
it's here.
everyone. So a few people that understood what I was trying to do, like.
Could do it.
But could do it. There was just a few people I was just like, why can't you?
So I've never actually used the ball facing the back, but if I'm trying to like think through that, it wasn't a bad thing to do. I just never thought to do it. No.
When I fully released up,
It's
the
gonna
full
go.
release of the strap, I came off.
Okay.
So when you're saying like get a release,
Just paying attention to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, that was a good. I'm glad you asked about that because again, you wouldn't have thought about that. That's what you was talking about.
My whole goal of that was to keep their core engaged.
and
then
like
work
I
on
totally
the
would,
arms.
if I stayed down in the ball, but I should
Yes.
not come up at all, I
Right.
should stay,
Yeah.
so then I burn it out.
So when using your props,
we've done some like new stuff that I'm like,
Was it necessary?
like ankle weights on jump board. Not necessary. Like, you know, just, what's your goal of that? What's your goal of putting ankle weights on in jump board? Jump board's plenty hard enough without ankle weights. And you're gonna burn out your hip flexors. So, like, think about your intentions when you're using props, and even ask yourself, what is my goal in using this prop? Don't just use a prop to say I'm gonna use a prop. Or I've seen people put ankle weights on and like, you don't ever use the ankle weights. It's like ankle weights for core work, and you might do a couple leg lifts, and then the ankle weights come off, and it was just a whole lot for nothing. If you've got ankle weights on these machines, use them. And you don't need an ankle weight if you're doing leg sweeps and stuff, because that's, you have the machine. So don't confuse yourself. So beginners, they have got to be set up to succeed. We were just talking about that. I would rather somebody feel like over the moon successful and you wonder if you challenged them enough versus somebody feeling like they failed. So that means they should start on a yellow second row or a blue on core and legs, okay? For safety, I would almost start on blue. If they look really good, be like, you look really good, I'm gonna make this a little tougher. Tell me how it feels. And then take them to that yellow second row. Advising exercises on knees. As the instructor, do not wait for the client to fail before you're changing your springs. Like, that should not be one yellow spring and then she's struggling and then you gotta go change her. Because then in her mind, oh, I couldn't do that, I had to modify. Like, it is our job to set them up for success, not, you know, hold them out of a failing situation. Does that make sense? Anticipate rather than reacting, basically, a nicer way to say what I just said. And then, we just said this. We would want an exercise to feel easier and achievable than difficult. Okay, so common injuries. These are the most common things we're seeing in class and things that I want y'all to think about should be avoided or modified when this comes up, okay? So your lower back, your lumbar, over half of Americans have these injuries. And there's a lot of contraindications with them. If you get your core strong enough, you can do some of those things, but most people, unless you're doing Pilates all the time, their core is not where it needs to be. So in Pilates, standing inner thigh, plank work, Superman, wheelbarrow, and anything twisting. So basically anything where you're reaching out and you're not in alignment with your shoulders over your wrist. And what you would do instead of that is anything where you keep the alignment but your lower body moves. So a bear, what do we call cabbage, a knee tuck, something like that, okay? Standing inner thigh makes your hips open so much that if your pelvis is unstable, it's gonna go up into your lower back. So I want y'all to, who's got a, no, hearing this off. I want y'all to be able to see this, stand up, and go out into standing inner thigh. This is something I see a lot talking about people after babies.
Face this way or face that?
It doesn't matter. Maybe face. Do it both. We'll do it both ways so you can both see. I want people to go out into your standing inner
Yeah, I
thigh.
can do it, 'cause I can't really do it.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't do it at all.
Maybe it's your hip side.
I'm like,
Actually, come down here.
I did like a foot. That's about as far as I can go.
I want y'all to be able to see it from far away. I'm
Okay.
sorry, camera. So stand right here. I don't know if your hips are off. Do you have misalignment?
Yeah, I have the extra lumbar.
My right hip is 1 inch higher than the left.
Well, you would probably get better
So-
example.
One side's used and one side's not.
Okay,
I'm
so-
always out
So
of
is
line.
your left higher?
Yeah,
Go
it
out
looks
into
like
your
it.
standing inner
It
thigh.
looks like, yeah, your right is
Don't
lower.
overheat your glutes. I want you, I know, I'm sorry. Just do it once for me. This is not so bad. Well, it's because you know how to keep it. Can you like relax for a second and not keep it in alignment? Relax a second and not keep it in alignment.
That too.
Yes.
But
Like,
structurally, a lot of times we do have a
It's just
misalignment.
like, they don't want to put their weight
Right.
equally to come out,
Yeah.
so they're,
So that starts with your foundation. Before they even do any movement, you have to make sure that their weight is centered and talk about that before they add any outward movement.
Like a good way to start, correct me if I'm wrong, could be to drop them down to their knees.
Yes, yeah.
Cause
Yeah.
then I feel like it's easy, cause you're
Yes.
closer to that point.
Yeah.
You're not using, so they're still able to feel the work in their inner thighs,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not as far away from the point that you're working, right?
Yes.
So,
I think that's a great place to start, especially if you have
I do
big
it still
people.
sometimes, like, those things I'll still drop down.
Oh, yeah.
sometimes.
Come on, let me see your
Oh, yeah.
Rachel, my business partner, when she gets standing there and I was like, Rachel, your hips, like I could see
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
And that will get into your SI back. So
Yeah.
she really
Yeah.
should not have been doing that. As far as she didn't even notice it. She's like, no, that's been hurting.
Turn around,
Yeah.
it's better that way. For y'all to see. Yeah, I mean, the right hip is definitely.
Well, y'all are instructors, so you like
I
know how
know.
to. Okay, relax.
You know that. I like trying not to.
I know. So I try not to keep it in alignment. You see her right.
Yeah.
Hers is not as bad,
Right
but
hip is
her
higher.
right hip is higher. Sure.
Yeah, the right hip
Mine
is,
are
like,
actually-
I had x-rays that like just show me how my whole.
I don't know if mine are probably this hip is higher than this
Can't
one.
see as much with yours.
Oh, of course, yeah.
As much as mine,
I
I'm
don't
sure.
know terrible aware. Anyway, when you see that, you've got to go fix them
I guess I never
because
realized the alignment, I just always thought that they just weren't
see.
shifting their weight correctly.
Yeah, I see a lot of people that are like overly, like this.
or that too, like doing this over tucking, yeah, that too.
I do that.
Yeah, well, me too, kind of.
I feel like it's like you naturally do,
I
but
do
then
it.
some people I feel like are not.
I do it till I
strong
can stand
enough.
up and do it, which is stupid, cause I just need to drop down my knees and do it.
Right.
Take my advice.
I will-
See?
And
She's
well,
like,
I really feel like that's how some of clients feel, cause if you
course.
recommend them to go to their knees,
I know.
well, that's not what everybody else is doing, and
Put
that's not as
them on
hard.
a blue.
I think maybe
Put them
like,
on blue.
like if, I mean, truly, if like, for myself, if I start doing it more, then I'm sure clients will look like, she's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
instructor.
And she's
not
on her knees.
fine, so
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
it's okay, you know?
I told like I tried like I have to modify like there's
Yes.
still so much
Yeah.
stuff I'm rebuilding.
I mean, they're watching me, when I take class, if I take class in the morning, they're watching me modify everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Some
Which
people
is
are like,
important,
"Why?"
I think, for them to
Yeah, like-
see, because a lot of the times you
Most
like,
people know.
get
Think
lost
we're
in the
invincible.
wall.
And I'm like, no, it's still hard.
It's still hard. When I'm doing it, it's still hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so modifications here is engage glutes, Ashley. Drop to the knees, heavier springs, and warming up and stretching your hamstrings properly on certain things. For this, we skip the burn exercises, but that's like kettlebells, deadlifts, rows, all of that.
Yes.
Your knees. So any knee exercises on this machine, okay, let me start over. Knee injuries on this machine are something you have to watch closely because it creates so much instability with this movement of trying to lunge. If you have a knee injury, pretty much any lunges, you have to really watch, and you would want to walk instead of run, obviously, quick movements instead of jumps, limiting the range of motion, we talked about that earlier, and taking the injured knee onto the platform instead of the carriage, because that's gonna give them more stability. So nobody with a bum knee should be lunging with that working leg out of the carriage, okay? They can do the other side. But think about this, if their right knee has been injured, they're cutting because their quad is weak. So if they're lunging on the other leg, but they have to stabilize through the backside, it's still gonna be difficult for them. So they might need a pole or some added springs. Hips and pelvis, so poses to be conscious of. Lunges, warrior two, leg strap work, sumo squats, standing inner thigh should be in there too. Let me show them really quick why, because of the lunges. So, I can probably do it. Alright, so when you're, if you can't see, wow, this is a sad state of affairs right here. Okay, so when you're, will you come up here, I'm gonna flash. This is stupid shorts. I don't know why I have it, because I usually don't leave my house these days. Okay, so this thing's down. Alright, so a lot of times in a lunge, you're gonna see, can y'all see in the mirror that his back hip is open?
Yeah.
So you really need to focus on getting up on top of your lunge gear and not letting that hip move around. If you have SI, I don't know if you ever feel that in your lunges, it will shoot right up into your lower back. And remember with your pelvis, your hip flexor comes up and around through your lower back, right? Then your SIs are responsible for your hip stability, which connects to your pelvis. So if you have any of that messed up, even something as simple, anything that's single leg support, so that could be a single leg squat, a side lunge, or front lunge, requires all of that to stabilize. And if you're unstable, like, y'all know I throw my back out all the time. When my back is thrown out, I can do nothing single leg. It is like the rule. Not gonna squat and bridge, double leg.
Also for
So-
working, we talked about this the other, or a while back, about working.
Yes.
When I can, on my flexibility, I can
Yeah.
literally go so low, but now this hip is open and I'm not actually working the correct muscle.
Yes.
I actually feel more like holding into my hip, and I'm in a stretch-ish through my hip flexor versus being able to come up. And so a lot of clients, if you notice that too,
Yeah.
going too low, because they can touch the platform, but you're not working the correct spot. So getting that adjustment to like close off that hip, lift.
I
and
noticed
check.
you work on that hip a lot, pulling that back hip forward. And I have to work on it too, but even like cueing that, I never.
I feel like I do a lot when they're facing the mirror.
Yes.
I'm like, please look at yourself. You're
Yeah.
facing the mirror, you should see both hip
Hips.
bones like forward,
Yeah.
straight, and when and then just going around to people that aren't visualizing it
And fixing.
as well. But it's hard when they're doing reverse
It is.
because one, it's a lot more difficult for a lot of the clients.
Yes.
So they like, they should be thinking about
But that's why I feel like use the mirrors when we can, so that when we don't have the mirrors, they'll start to feel what's right or wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like starting with that and then,
Yeah, and then turning around.
Yeah.
Oh, I just said, avoid single leg standing exercises if injury is active. Okay, wrist. How's the periodic wrist? Alright, basically every exercise ever, avoiding our wrist injury. Be sure though that they are, remember, when you're on this bar, the weight should be in the meaty part of their palm, not anywhere near the middle of their palm or here.
or wrapping the finger.
Yes, like wrapping the fingers. Make sure. Wrapping the fingers is, but some people don't feel comfortable doing this. Like I have a big palm, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
But you're looking again for more of alignment. So you're looking that this, and this are aligned versus
Yes.
it being
And I
behind.
think when they wrap their thumb, that's where they drop
Yes.
down.
They're here.
So if you just, a simple, just feel like, just don't wrap your thumb.
Don't wrap your
Not
thumb.
many people can do it
Yeah.
with a thumb.
That's a good cue. Yeah, I forget about that cue thumb. But that fixes the alignment, you're right. And it releases the wrinkles in the wrist.
Yeah.
I always look at the wrinkles in the wrist, like if they're all wrinkly,
Yeah, oh,
that's not good. So make those adjustments because it will become a wrist injury, even if you don't already have one, you know? Shoulders. All right, pretty much all plank work, bear, all of that. Halo, where you're coming up, or chest slide, or hug street, where they're having to really stabilize from a weighted standpoint with their shoulders. And anything really, bird dog, tabletop. Here, they should be okay, but then if you start going single arm, it gets a little tough on them. So you could either have them not stabilize and come up on their knees, or lighten, like if they're working to get stronger, say they have an old injury,
Right.
and they're trying, maybe they can, instead of being here, they can sit back, let their legs help them a little, and
And
then
hand on the shoulder block
Yeah.
too. That would be-
Yeah. build the strength rather than just avoiding completely. And not raising past parallel. So that's big for the shoulders, depending on the injury. Okay, neck. I want everyone to remember that these neck rests lift. Does everyone know how to do that? Like, we need to use that more because it really is beneficial.
No, it's not mine.
I don't know, I was thinking the same thing.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
technically, like, it gets your neck in spine. It's supposed to get it in more neutral alignment, but I feel like if you lay on the ball to the side is perfect, but to the back, it's
I
too
take,
high.
I
Yeah.
take the shoulder blocks out.
Oh, that's a good idea.
do that all
That's
the
a great
time.
idea. That's perfect.
Okay, I
That
can do
too.
that.
No, that's great.
Okay.
That's great. Don't do, I've seen people like put ball or something like
Yeah,
that, and they're
no,
like this and
that's-
choking.
Well, it's not.
I also bought yoga
Sure.
blocks,
Yeah.
which they could be too high also.
Well, if it's just one client, you could use the pregnancy.
The pregnancy wedge is great. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, if it was really what they needed, you know.
Who else used to, remember with men, y'all, men have the tightest necks,
Uh-huh.
and they're like,
Yeah.
who trains, what's his name? Oh, I can't think, what's his name? No, the, burger guy. Sure.
Yes.
Is so tight, he can't even leg. Like, he can't, physically can't leg.
Yeah.
So you have to.
They can't either.
Who?
Try.
Try that.
You
Yep.
can't even, like, just teach and burn.
Yep.
Try to do a core, like, something.
Yes.
I'm like, just lay down, like,
But they're like, I can't.
I'm just wanting him to just move his
That's
legs
it.
or something,
He
and
can't.
he can't, like, he's like, I'm just doing it. He just gets it on.
He does need to get his Pilates. So spine series with a neck injury, be very careful because they're putting that added pressure on their necks. Jump board, have them in a neutral neck position because you're laying down for so long.
Right.
Yeah, so just be sure you're being aware of that. Plank, sling, for all the things that's gonna force them to come down and up. The beautiful modification is using this ring to go behind the head here, and then you take your hands here, and it gives your neck,
Oh, that's great.
it's great, in a sit up or a crunch. So you just little lift, little crunch, and release. Ashley Ellis uses her towel a lot. Have y'all noticed that? She really should use this. I don't know why she uses a towel, but a towel is a good prop too for a modification.
Also, in just cueing that, and I've just been noticing a lot of my carving on it a lot is neutral spine in your plank work, especially like
Yes.
wheelbarrow or whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone is
They're
dropping their head
Yes.
all the way on their
Yes.
spine, and that's just so bad. Like to have your head.
Yes.
Yes.
So that way, like you're creating unnecessary tension.
That's what I'm
So like saying that.
Yep.
And that's like alignment.
Alignment. It's our goal.
Yeah,
My shoulders and my
I like read
hips.
something scary about like it's like so many tons of pressure on your neck when your head goes below, and I like freak out.
Yes.
So like my last week,
The
like,
neck
every time
freaks
like,
me out
and
like
it's
so
like,
much.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
I just
scary.
started noticing it with myself, so that's why I started cute with everybody, because I'm like, me too.
well, and
Yeah,
then
that's
they
what
should, they should
Yeah.
be gazing.
Yeah, you can
look at something.
Taylor always says, take your gaze when
Yes.
take your gaze to the where the floor meets the ceiling.
Yes.
I cued it myself.
Yeah, you're not looking forward,
in a whole year on this. By the way, I bought the pregnancy
Workshop.
workshop.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
so
send
good.
it out, yes, so that, I need to make myself notes, would you?
That would be awesome.
So,
So great.
send out pregnancy workshop in order.
And I have my paperwork from that too. Did they give you that with it? Like the printouts?
I can't remember, I'll
Let me
look
know
up.
if not,
Okay.
I can get it
Um,
on.
So, we are gonna be hosting a pre and postnatal workshop, but if we're gonna host that workshop, I want our instructors to understand how to we can't say we are so great at pre and postnatal, and then a pregnant person comes in and the instructor runs out like, what do I do? You know?
Yeah.
I didn't know you guys supposed to do interview by like 20+ weeks.
Oh, yeah. That way it'll hurt your
Oh,
skin.
yeah.
It'll hurt your hip stuff. So as you're relaxing,
Right.
releases everything in your pelvis, it gets too loose. That's where you'll throw out your SI joint. So it's not a harm to the baby, you're just gonna hurt your body. Yeah. It's not I did it.
No. Yeah, I remember
to
it's
know
like,
now.
stop
18
doing
when I'm
this.
18.
Yeah, I would stop now.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously compression of belly, nobody should be laying on their stomach, hope we all know that. Twisting movements that close off the pelvis, so you can do a seated or, a laying twist, and you want to, if you're doing bear, you wanna limit your range of motion so that you're not completely wringing your core from right to left. Think of it as a gentle twist, more of a figure 8 of the hips, rather than a big twist. So instead of twisting it, yeah, you can't. So it might look more like this, right? Which is a great engagement of my weight versus a full twist.
At some point you're like, I don't care.
So you're like, I don't want to do it here anymore.
Yeah, it's not like I'm there, no way.
Okay, so I want to explain this real quick. Lying on your back for too long, 16+ weeks. So I actually consulted with an OBGYN on this because I wanted to fully understand. So obviously, laying on your back is puts you at danger of compressing a large vein, which sends blood to the baby. Okay. So typically, if you're going to lay and push yourself to a point where that's at risk, you're going to start to feel lightheaded. You're going to start to feel something that's letting you know something's wrong, right? A lot of pregnant women sleep on their backs, and their body in their sleep
Wakes them up, yes.
wakes them up to roll over or change positions. So you will have pregnant women that don't understand why they can't lay on their backs, but they read in a book that they can't lay on their back, right? So if you have somebody flat for 3 minutes, they're okay. You don't want them laying for a 20-minute series, right? You can offer them the wedge, but sometimes it's more cumbersome to put the wedge down for 3 minutes, take it off, put it back, take it off. So I just want y'all to understand the science behind laying on your back and at what point you're at danger. And I don't want to say the baby's never, the baby can be in danger, but your body is going to tell you, I need to sit up before that baby is harmed. Okay, so you as the
It's more too far back too.
Yeah.
So they say it's a lot of major on a decline, where your head is getting below.
And especially when you're laying on your back, we're usually moving. We're doing a little crunch, we're moving around.
Yeah.
Now if you're doing a bunch of
Now, if
leg
it's
presses,
if it's a long series, then it would make sense.
They would have
to
the
put
wedge. But otherwise, I'll have somebody lay on their side for leg presses, take the wedge off.
Yeah.
You're coming back for 3 minutes of leg presses, they get up, put the leg wedge back on. Then you flip to the other side, they get up, it's just.
I'm just keep the wedge and lay up.
Yeah, just relax for a second, leave the wedge there.
But
12 weeks is where you really want to stop lying on your belly if you're pregnant, so you don't have to stop that on day 1. Heat, you want to use caution with that. There's some guidelines on how high your heart rate should get, and different doctors have different opinions on it, so we don't want to be that opinion, right? So let them consult. Ashley's doctor had very strong feelings about your heart rate.
So did mine, was something
Mine was I was like, what you do, girl? Have fun.
she's like 140, I said, okay, so don't go walk fast.
I like it red.
So it's like the cute.
Yeah.
identify work after 20 weeks, we just said that. So, things we can do to help. Pregnancy wedge, parallel core work instead of twisting, okay? Bird dog movements are phenomenal for pregnancy. I know a lot of times it's like womp womp, but
There's like a lot of stuff you could
Yeah.
do.
just add on and make it fun for them, add weights, add like a side crunch, you know. A pole for support, a heavier spring on inner thigh work if they're not past 20 weeks, or more supportive parallel squats instead. So just kind of make the carriage really, really, really still. I want to give y'all an example of Jordan Bell, who I've been working with, because this is like she was an extreme difficult client, but I think more pregnant people have these issues and they just don't work out because they don't know what to do and there's no one equipped to work with them. So her SI joint was completely thrown off, so she could not even kneel on one leg. So there was no like, kneel and do this. Okay, she was so unstable, she could not even kneel. She had a gaping hernia, so there was no crunching at all, of any sort. She had her,
After pregnancy?
no, this is before she was pregnant.
Oh.
This is during pregnancy. She had,
Oh, God.
well, I'm just,
At
terrible.
this point,
Her left glute could not engage at all. So anything you did on the left, she felt in her hip and in her groin, which then made her groin overcompensate. So pretty much one side was super tight and the other side was overmovable because of the imbalance in lack of engagement in one glute. So for a whole hour, you had to figure out what the hell she could do, which was almost nothing. But there was things to come up with, right? Like she could lay on her side and lift and lower one leg, and we could fully support it on her side. Maybe we could crunch here because she couldn't kneel. She could lift. She could swing her leg forward and back. She could crunch here. You could use a weight, and she could just hold and do tricep extensions. We would do 30 minutes of leg presses in here, and then we would go in there and do 30 minutes of bridging, squeezing, inner, outer, tons of pelvic tilts with squeezing the ball, the leg side to side work. Oh, here was the other thing. She didn't want to work any arms because she does that at home. So an hour of basically WTF is right. Yeah. Twice a week.
love
So-
privates.
That's why Taylor was the only one in the know.
I crashed on her twice. You did a good job with her.
You have a good job.
But no, there's so many people like that.
She's not here.
She just had a baby.
Oh,
She just had a baby, yep. And so she'll be back. She's already texting.
I love you.
She's so sweet. She's so sweet. She's trying to stay sane.
Cool newborn.
For the newborn. And like she's a little like, not neurotic, but she likes things like she likes them. And so I think it's challenging.
I used to be that way, and then I
Yeah.
had a kid, and now I'm like, whoa.
Whatever. All right. Whatever happened, happened. So I want y'all to feel empowered, and I want y'all to feel like you could say any of the things I would say to a client, and that you know y'all teach more than I do now. Like y'all are badasses, and I want y'all to feel like you can make those corrections, and you do have the knowledge to take your teaching up a notch. And that I could throw a really difficult private at you, and I wouldn't have to send you a whole paragraph on what to do. Of course I will do that if you need me to. But it got difficult there for a second because this is what happened. I know we're over time.
No, you're good.
We had 3 to 4 difficult privates. We had Chris Roadless, we had Jordan, we had Tammy, who has Lyme disease and swollen lymph
she's
nodes
coming
and
to Wednesday night.
all sorts of things, yeah. And then we had one other difficult person who,
I got Chris.
Chris was one of them.
Oh, no, the other Chris.
Chris, who's got spondylolisthesis.
Yes.
Oh, that's
The other Chris, who cannot do anything full range, and so all those people were only working with me. And then it got to a point where I kind of got sick and I was backing off. And then we'd have more privates come onto that time slot, but then we were having to bump people around, like move this person to Sarah and move Sarah's private to this person and shift this person to this person, just so that the
instructor who was equipped could work with the more difficult clients. Well, a couple people got very angry that they were moved between instructors, and one of them I had to refund $800 something because she was so pissed that she got switched instructors and her expectations were changed. So I'm not saying that was like, yeah, but I do think that there definitely is some discrepancy with instructors of being confident with those types of clients, and being able, like, for me to throw those types of clients to anybody, and instructors who I'm like, they're phenomenal, but I don't know that they would know what to do in this scenario. So my goal would be like, everyone's ready to roll with any type
I
of client.
think that basis is so good, because I mean,
Yes.
honestly, most of them can't do any of that anyway, so
Yeah.
you're gonna do that the first, and then from that point, then you can start adding on,
Yep.
you know, it different things and doing that, but I mean, honestly,
Expanding.
those are, I mean.
That's a good thing to know that everybody knows that, and
Yes.
so
Yes.
say Alexis already worked with somebody, and you, not that I'm taking a ton of privates, but
Right.
you needed to transfer, like, change the time to Sarah, and Alexis said, okay, just the basis of,
Yes.
this person can do a pelvic
Yes.
tilt, can do a bridge with their legs straight up, then you can kind of go
Go
from
from
there.
there. Right.
Because
Bread and
the
butter.
progression of
Yes.
where they are. You know,
Yes.
like,
Cause if they,
or this
you-
person
yeah.
can still do really much of a pelvic tilt, and they can kind of
Yeah.
get their knees at tabletop, but they can't hold it for long.
Yeah.
Like, just saying that,
Yeah.
and you can start
You-
there,
your
and
brain.
then.
Or like,
we're
So
still
just
on that
have
page.
it.
And then also that every client walks away feeling that their time is beneficial instead of,
Yes.
well, I think I should just go to a class, because I really just like the
Well, and that's
asking.
kind of how I felt last time we talked about it, when I was doing privates, but I didn't really know what they had done before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to, like,
Where to-
and I know y'all told me, okay, this is what they have, this is the issues and stuff like that, but I'm like, okay, well, Lauren